All right. Let me make sure I'm sharing the correct screen here so everybody can see. And then slideshow. Yeah, let's do that. Awesome. All right. Sweet. Welcome everybody to the September 2023 instance of the AWX Community Meeting. We have a pretty chock full agenda, so I'm gonna try to make sure I can time box folks accordingly. If we go over, or folks want to go over to the element and matrix channels, will be a good place to continue that conversation. Here's the agenda for today. Got a pretty full agenda. But yeah, all right, and we'll start off. We'll just kick it straight to Eli about the EKS or reconnect support. And Eli, if you want to share, or if you want to take over the screen, go for it. Or if you have something you want me to show, I'm happy to do that.
Just a second. Yeah, now I figured out how to turn on my microphone. And yeah, I would like to share something. I ask you permission to do it. So just a second. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yep, looks good to me.
Okay, so I will start with the reconnect support functionality. There is like kind of saga that is going now, and I just want to update you about what is going on with it. When I will start with the beginning, when we started our when we moved from COPS to EKS cluster of Kubernetes, we noticed that all our AWX worker pods, here you can see it in the schema, we have an EKS control plane and Kubernetes API that is a part of the EKS control plane. And since it is EKS, it is managed by AWS. And we have our part. I didn't put here worker nodes, but I'm sure that everybody understands that there are worker nodes here. And so when we moved from COPS to EKS, we noticed that all of our pods were terminated like each couple of hours. Without any reason, without anything that we could see. And so we approached to AWS, and we found that the Kubernetes API was restarting. And when the Kubernetes API was restarting, AWS task was just killing all the workers because it couldn't connect to API and get the logs of the workers. So what happened is like each couple hours, all our processes that were running in AWX were stopped, and it was not like good for our processes. So what we found is that sometimes some things can happen with the master nodes of the EKS control plane, and sometimes a Kubernetes API can restart. And it can be restarted if one of the nodes is down, like if AWS has some hardware issue, if Kubernetes was scaled in or scaled out, if some major patches were installed, if there is upgrade of EKS, or if there is some bug. And about some bug, we just handled to find the bug in the EKS control plane with AWS team. We described all the things that we see in logs and all problematic things, and they found a bug in the EKS control plane that, and because of this bug, Kubernetes API was restarting every 2 hours, and we can say that it's can be considered like a temporary resolution, temporary because anyway, it's still a problem that when we restart the Kubernetes API, all our running jobs of AWX fail. So we brought up another environment of COPS, and it's much more convenient for us because we cannot make a restart of EKS because AWS takes responsibility on EKS. And about COPS, we can try to restart nodes and so on, and we managed to reproduce this error. So we had some running tasks in AWX, some running workflows. And we like just killed one of the Kubernetes master nodes. And we saw that when Kubernetes is going down, AWX is killing all the tasks. And we found that when we are killing one of the Kubernetes master nodes, Kubernetes is sending the go away error. And how added this exception? So that time there was already a reconnect support. So just the receptor was catching this error and tried to reconnect. And it worked. It worked in this scenario. So when I also checked this with AWS. I was directed again to the AWS support, and I asked them to bring to kill one of the nodes, and we saw that it helped. But there are still other options. The most problematic one is Kubernetes scaled in, scaled out. And why is it the most problematic? Because here we talk about EKS. That means that there is no way to make EKS scale out manually or by any automation. And even AWS support cannot do it for me. I asked them if they can make a scale in, scale out just to let me reproduce this error. And they told me that they can. So the honest way to do it is run many workflows in AWX. And this is what we did. We are using AWX for years to provision infrastructure for our clients, and sometimes we need to run more than 200 workloads simultaneously. And when we run more than 200 rather heavy workloads simultaneously, Kubernetes cluster makes scale out. When it makes scale out, we get the same error. All the running workers fail with the error. And I opened another issue where I described all kinds of errors that we receive when it happens. And then we talked with Hao, and we decided that we can't really catch all of these errors, because sometimes Kubernetes API can send something, or it can sometimes there is not enough time to send anything. And it depends on the Kubernetes API timing, where the go away error may be sent or may not be sent, or maybe something else can be sent, like you can see here in these examples. And what was done here, for now, when we get any error, we just make reconnect. Receptor is trying to reconnect. And if it works, it will resolve all these issues. So if there are major patches, there will be a restart of one of the nodes, and our AWX will reconnect. And if the scale in or scale out will happen, or even the EKS upgrade. And for now, what remains is to check this scenario one more time. So we will need to bring up our performance test environment and run a creation of more than 200 tenants as a part of performance tests. And we will check if it helped. We really hope that it will help, because this means that we will resolve our issue, and we could create more than 200 tenants simultaneously, and it will be significantly improve our processes. And it will also help AWX to be more stable and know how to tolerate the master nodes restart. So that's it about the reconnect support. If there are no any questions, I will move forward to the next issue.
Thank you very much for doing this with us, Eli. So for a little bit of background context here, right? When we start up the job pod, the control plane node will try to go through the Kube API server to connect to the job pod, so that we can shove in std in and then read out the job output, right? So when the master node that we're connected to gets restarted or goes away, like before, we didn't try to reconnect. like during all of these scenario, like for example, when EKS is being upgraded, when the master node is being like added or removed, like EKS does have the guarantee of like zero downtime, right? But ongoing connection will be cut. And essentially what we're doing here is just try to connect again. We will get routed to another master node and the connection will be fine and the job can continue to run. So yeah, this is a really big resiliency improvement for AWX. And thank you very much, Eli, for helping us testing this. And I know this is very time and money intensive. So we really appreciate your work here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm always glad to contribute. Thank you too. Thank you for your support. It's a very important achievement also for our organization. So yeah, we will be very glad to fix it finally.
For the sake of recording, for the recording audience, Eli also has the next agenda topic, which is AWX projects. So,
Jake, would you mind taking over the screen share and flash the title card?
yeah, sure. Pin. Hopefully, do I need to pin myself? I don't even know how to unpin or whatever. There you go. All right. And I'll pass it back to Eli now. Unpin mine. Sweet. All yours, Eli.
Can you still see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah, great. So another issue that I just opened today is related to the project updates. We were struggling with this issue for more than 2 weeks because it was really hard to troubleshoot. I'll get into details in a couple of minutes about it. Why was it so hard to troubleshoot this issue? But what actually happened that our load on our AWX environment for R&D increased because more teams moved to our AWX automation that we use. And they started using different workflows. We have like, let's say like 15 projects. We have a lot of workflows that are based on each of them. And some more projects and workflow added. And developers started using AWX for provisioning the infrastructure. And what we saw that our system became very slowly. Sometimes it didn't respond. And with so many errors like that like waited and this amount of seconds to acquire log for local source tree for path, it's like something related to Git, obviously. But actually what happened that somebody triggered something, some workflow, and he was just waiting for 15 minutes and nothing happened. And we really like spent much time to understand what was happening here. I'm sharing different like data that we got from Datadog. We saw that what we saw is that the memory consumption of the web replicas increased significantly. We saw that the load on our RDS became like just a second. Here is it. Yeah, it reached 100%. And actually, almost nothing worked as expected. Usually, when we create a tenant by using AWX, it takes about 1 hour to do it. But when we get this issue, it may take up to 4 hours. And it was related to all other workflows too. Why was it so hard to troubleshoot this issue? It was hard to troubleshoot it because it was a combination of different bugs related to the project update. Let me show you just some of them. This one is related to the project update, and here you can see an example of one of the projects. We can see here that last job status. It means when the last, it will point to the job last jobs that made a project update. And when it gets when it is in the status running, in the running status, if we click here, we will be directed to some project update, to the latest project update that is running in AWX, and not to the project update that is running in this particular project. It's not a big deal, but what confused us much more is this bug that actually we cannot see most of the project's updates that are happening in UI of AWX. We can see only some of them, and I will show you exactly what is happening. Let's say that we have some project here, and we define that the source control branch is master. Cache timeout is 9,000, so we define the pretty big cache time, and we allow the branch override. And let's say that we have some workflow that is with name AWX workflow master, and it uses a branch master. So no branch override is happening. In this case, we can run as much workflows as we want, and there won't be any problem because it will use a cache. But in our particular case, we were using different workflows with different branches, but all of these workflows were based on this project. And what we noticed that we don't see the project updates, these project updates in AWX UI. So when we go to the list of jobs and we try to find them, we don't see them. We see only the project updates that are happening in the master branch. And so we looked into the logs and we saw that some of the project updates were triggered and we found their ID, but even find them by ID is impossible. So we just pasted the ID in the AWX URL and we found them. And we noticed that every time when some other workflow is running based on some project and is running project update and is overriding the branch, it triggers the project update. So let's imagine that we have like 100 workflows like this, 15 workflows like this, and 50 workflows like this. And all of them are running simultaneously. And if we will take into account that the project update takes about a minute, this will mean for us that our system just will be killed. Nothing will happen. We will get a lot of workloads that are waiting for this project update. And the cache timeout will be ignored. So according to what we see, the cache is working only for the branch that we defined here. In our case, it's master branch. But when some other branch is triggering the project update, it just makes the override and it ignores the cache. So we wonder if there is a way to make cache work on the level of the full repo. Because in the end, you can see that inside of the AWX task container, that it does the clone. So we wonder if it can work on the level of Git repository and not on the level of Git branch. So I was glad to share our troubleshooting and the researchers, and I will be glad to hear what you think about it.
Awesome. All right. Anybody have any questions? I see Hal unmuting himself.
So I'm just trying to make sure that I understand this correctly, right? If you essentially the problem is if you run multiple jobs from the same project from different like shell or branches, then you essentially ended up serializing the job runs because each of them needed to do a project update.
Yeah, each job is making the project update, and let's say that we run this job, it made project update, and then we are running this workflow. And actually that means that each job of the workflow will run this project update. And if the project update takes time, it will just never happen. Gotcha. Because every new job is like overriding the branch and makes the project update. If the whole Git repo was cached, it could resolve this problem, I guess.
Okay, right. So we're polling every time, and we're not like storing all the different branches that we pull. So it's not just switching the branches, but it's a repolling of the whole project. And if it's big, it takes a longer time, right? Alan, I didn't have that much time to look into this issue this morning, but I saw that you had some thoughts on this.
Okay.
Well, are you talking about? You're saying pulling it, but it's not like necessarily pulling it on the Git level. For a project, there's a one-to-one between the projects and the project folder that we create in the project directory, and that's kind of a part of the problem here, right? So when you have a project and you use like a different branch, it's going to use the same project folder inside of like a varlib AWX projects. It might be a different location or OpenShift. So when you use the override branch, it will actually check out a different branch. So you have the Git repository and you have the checkout, right? So the Git history is in the .git folder inside of there. And it's just like using Git on the command line is what it'll do, is that the branch that it's overridden with, it'll go and try to check out that branch. But the reason that we're not able to make use of any of like the caching behavior, which could solve this, like what you're getting to, is because the normal way of caching is that it'll save like on the project the last revision that it checked out. So the problem there becomes you would need to get in the business of saving the last revision that it saw, specific to like the branch. So like the last revision it seemed like for this branch or for this branch. But even if you only save that like one level deep, that would still probably solve the problem, especially in the case of workflows, because you have a workflow, as I understand. And we have exactly this feature, right? So that the workflow has a branch associated with it, and it'll apply that branch to all the things in the workflow. So obviously you have a burst of jobs because you're running the workflow, and they're all using the same branch. But because we don't have any persistence of this kind of branch specific data, that's why we're not even attempting to do some sort of caching. Yeah, so that's kind of some of the unfortunate circumstances behind that. It's not great. There's definitely things that degrade in the performance, like kind of user experience, when you go using the branch override compared to just using a normal project. And that's what you're hitting there. But we've never really got this is the first time I've gotten much like detailed feedback about that. Like it's been out there for a while. There might have been a mention or two before, but you make good points for everything. I don't disagree with anything.
Okay, thank you.
One curious part here is, why does it increase the CPU? That was the CPU or memory utilization of RDS that you were showing?
It was it was just a second. It was CPU usage of the web container. It was sorry. It was just a second. Yeah, it was CPU usage of the RAM container, or of the web container, RAM usage of the task container, and the CPU of RDS. And I guess that according to this issue that we opened, just a second, let me find it. We had a lot of jobs in the queue that were waiting. Like here you can see that. Here you can see that we have a job that is blocked by project update. And we had like 300 records like this. So we had like a huge queue of jobs that were waiting for some project update. And even after the project update is finished, it doesn't really help because another project update appears. And I think that the load of the pending jobs, maybe they could cause the CPU load on our RDS instance. It's just my assumption. But when we have this problem, we see this quire as like as first one. It takes like 60% of CPU.
Interesting. All right.
That's really fascinating.
Yeah, I think that's more interesting than, well, that's definitely something that we need to dig into what resulted in that query. I don't think we can resolve this on the call, and keeping in mind of the time and the length of the agenda. We'll move on to the next topic, but I think you have got Alan's interest, right? Like look at his, yeah. So I think that caught his eye.
Thank you. It was my purpose. I didn't expect that we're going to resolve it live right now, but I'm glad that I interested you with this issue, because it would like help us a lot.
Amazingly, just amazingly detailed issue. Thank you very much. I know you spent a lot of time on this, and we really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Next topic is related options from Sean. And Sean, do you want to take the screen, or do you just want me to flash your PR up here?
Let's flash Alan's PR up here.
All right. Give me just a second here.
I added it, but it is Alan's baby. In terms of the option.
Gotcha. All right. I'll make it a little bit bigger too.
Yeah, but basically, Alan put this up is that right now it's under options. It doesn't show the related items, such as like, on job templates, you have related schedules and credentials, other things like that. From there, like this is not meant to be a one-to-many. We're discussing about like kind of approval, or what's the best way about going down this road. I think I'm trying to find the agenda again, because I wrote stuff down from Alan.
Well, I want to bring it up as a discussion of RESTful API design practices. As best as we could do, it's probably something that's good to bring up and share, because API of this is obviously important to keep clean and usable by people. So the associated items has always been a pain point. It's been a huge pain point because it breaks the RESTful paradigm, I think, just out of the gate. There's no way that it doesn't break it, which is true for any many-to-many relationship that you have, unless you actually went and made a separate endpoint for what they call the through table, right? So the way that everything works under the hood is, for a relational database, you have a foreign key from one model to another model. And then when you have many related items, a many-to-many, that means that you have a separate table that has a foreign key that points to both of them, so that you can have an item from table A related to multiple items of table B, and vice versa. So what Sean was working with was with the collection, and in the collection tasks, you can specify those related items in a list. So that appears very nicely. It's very visually appealing, right? So you have if you had like a job template, and then you would just have credentials listed, like for like AWX job template in YAML, and you have its name, description, and credentials like tick off like credential A, B, C. And the collection will go out there and then make sure that the job template has those credentials, and then does it add to the current credentials? Like if the job template had a credential D, and then you ran this module that specified credential A, B, and C, then what would it do? Would it remove credential D? That's kind of the big point that Sean was already grappling with. So that's a good question.
Yeah.
That's important, right?
And like with the enforcement, one that's linked in the 14.128, I think we discussed last month, the idea would be that yes, it would remove, if you set it to enforce, it would remove that credential and force it to be that. And like if you were, I don't think it does it now in my current PR, but basically, like it was down to like, if you set to update on launch and someone had clicked it in the GUI, if you don't set that to false in the module, it will just stay there. There's no way to basically fix drift from the GUI to the module unless you specify every option. And that's kind of what I was trying to fix by grabbing the default options. And as far as I understand, this also then improves the CLI by going down this route as well.
Yeah, the CLI is just not feature complete at all for those associations, because the CLI from its very design inception was very strongly pushed to be an options-based tool. And then that way we're not coding in every field as we add it, because immediately, like in terms of development, we have drift. So somebody adds a field and that field's not going to get added to the CLI. Basically, like, and then for the collection, we solve this kind of some different ways. We have checks that enforce that it has fields whenever needed. But that was just not solved for the CLI for related associations, because again, like there's no backing in the options. When you have an options-based tool, and the options don't report anything for the associations, then the associations are just never going to work quite right. So I want to start with this, put this out there, like have people discuss it. If there's any feedback about the implementation here, and then kind of move forward from there. So put this piece in place, and then, and then build these other things. Like I really like what Sean's doing with the enforced state of the collection. I don't have anything against it. I just want to try to get it to be options based.
Yeah.
Sean, if you
I'm in the same boat. I I understand where you are. You want to have, we don't want to be setting everything manually, and I'd love to have it be pure API based where we don't have anything in the code. It just baby steps is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I do want to. I think the biggest to-do item is how to document this. Sean, if you want to page down here.
That's me. 1 second. Sorry, Alan.
Oh, Jake. Yeah. So when you get the options, it lists like the put catch fields basically, but then those are nested under actions. So you get the options JSON data, and then it has an actions list for the HTML verbs. But then we kind of throw in these other keys. We already did that for what you could search by. So there's like a related search fields that we're already providing. So it probably makes the most sense to me that we add this key on that same level. So this would be a top level item in the options data when you perform an options request, and it should be able to produce this relatively efficiently now with this current proposed implementation. But what is the data that you're seeing, and where do we need to put some documentation about it? Because the problem that I'm trying to solve here is that we have links in related. So when you do a get to any resource, essentially a job template or an organization, there is a dictionary that's just called related, and then these are API/v2 relative links for you to go to. But then out of those, you don't know what's what. It could be anything. It could be linking to anything that's related by any given criteria. So what this pull request is doing is grouping together all of the related links that are for attachable things. So that means that like when you have users, that exists as a related link. The key in the related is users, and then the endpoint is like organization / the ID / users. So maybe there's some feedback that this data should actually be different data. Like instead of the second item being users, maybe it should show API / v2 / organization / number / users or something along those lines.
Or even it should have fields instead of just being list items of users. It should be like item and endpoint and like,
yeah.
you know, like
Maybe if this was a dictionary to begin with, that would better reflect what the related dictionary is. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like we could put it's like it's a type notification templates, and the endpoint would be API v2 organization 1 / users and stuff like that, and kind of.
And maybe kind of self-document by putting it in a dictionary and using like some internal structure.
Yeah,
that's probably a good idea.
Because right now, like the first time I looked at this, it was just like, why are we repeating this twice? And then you go to say credentials. It's like, or the second one is type.
Right. Sorry, I do want to interrupt this. I'm sorry. We are in a time crunch here, and we are only on our 4th item. So I'm going to go ahead and move this forward to the next stuff.
Just people check it out. That's what we want, and get feedback.
Perfect. Awesome. All right, I'm going to go back over here. Kill that tab. All right, cool. Next up is TiVo about the new docs, AWX doc site. So I'll pass it over to TiVo.
TiVo's not on the call right now, so we probably can skip this one.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, well, if anybody sees the recording and has questions or comments about the AWX doc site, TiVo put her handle there. So. All right, AWX collection tests and GitHub Actions. Rick, Mr. elrod.
That is me, and I will keep this pretty quick. Let me share my screen real quick.
And I will not forget to unpause mine this time, so it won't be a bare screen for a while.
All right, hopefully you can see my screen.
So
in AWX we have obviously the AWX collection, which is how people who use Ansible can interact with AWX and configure projects and start jobs and so on and so forth. And so we historically have not run, we have a bunch of integration tests that come with the AWX collection. Historically, we have not run those in our CI pipeline. We've only run the sanity tests to check for like syntax related issues. And so that is something that recently I have enabled and kind of split it up into a matrix of multiple different integration CI jobs, just because otherwise it would be a singular 40-minute job, and I wanted to avoid that, so split it out into multiple jobs. The reason that I think it's interesting to bring up for this meeting is that these jobs, if you go into one of the CI successful CI checks for AWX, you can look at the artifacts that get produced, and one of them is AWX Collection Integration Coverage HTML. And if you download that, you can actually dig in and basically, as these integration tests run in the collection, it will keep track of which lines of code were actually tested. And this is a feature of Ansible Test. And so we actually collect those coverage results and combine them into a singular HTML report, and you can download that. And if you go into that, this will download a zip file. If you open that, there's an index.html file in there, and if you open that up, you'll get this UI that is from the Python coverage library. And you can dig into each of the modules and each of the lookup functions and module utils, basically everything that's inside of the AWX collection. And you can dig into them and see exactly which lines are being tested right now, which branches of if statements are being tested. It's a really cool thing to kind of get an idea of like how well our testing is actually covering the code that is in the collection. And so if you are interested in getting involved in, in AWX or in seeing how the collection works, or like, digging into a new part of the code base, we're looking for contributors to like contribute to getting our coverage increased for the collection. And I think this is a good place for people to start if you haven't dug into the collection code before. If it's something that you want to learn about, you can kind of go through and just again see like which branches have not been checked, or which lines have not been checked. And I think this is a relatively easy way to kind of get involved, and it's a kind of discrete thing you can work on. It doesn't it doesn't have many dependencies to learn about. Like, you can just go through and see, this is the condition that we need to set in order for this line to be covered, and then just add a test for that in the integration tests in the AWX collection. And those are, just to point out, if you go into the AWX repo, AWX collection, tests, integration targets, and then these are where all the integration tests are. They're just the Ansible roles that get turned into tests. So that's all I have. I just wanted to kind of put out a call to action there. If you're looking for some way to get involved and you want something to work on, this is something that we're trying to improve.
Awesome. Thank you, Rick. All right. Hopefully we're back. Per Hal, anybody who wants to say anything about the doc site, that is the link. It does resolve, and we'll get that added to the README as well soon, too. All right. Hal, you
So the content, sorry, going back to the doc site a little bit, the content of the doc site is actually within the Ansible AWX project itself, under docs/doc site, and I'm sure there's still a lot of information, incorrect or outdated information in there. We're working on getting this doc site up, I guess. And contribution is absolutely welcome. And going forward, this is where we're going to be documenting stuff.
Yeah, big thanks to Don and Tivo for that work. All right, Hal, you're next up as well.
Sure. I guess, hi. So many of you might have already seen messages popping up in our element, matrix channel from Ansible discourse. So I'm happy to announce that the Ansible community forum is now open and public. In the meeting agenda, I linked a blog post by Greg around the new forum. So the idea here is that we can start bringing like discussions and questions to the forum. We will eventually deprecate the mailing lists in favor of the forum. So more news on that coming later, but we'll be discussing events, feature developments, and general discussion and Q&As and everything within the forum. Hopefully this becomes the one place that we all gather around. And it's integrated to our matrix channel too. So when someone posts anything that tags AWX or posts things with AWX, it will get cross-post to the matrix channel too. It's really cool. Check it out. So, yep, that's it. Forum.ansible.com.
Awesome. Thank you for that update on the forum, Hal. Seth is up next with the release of the Hopnode feature.
Yeah, this is mostly just an announcement that the Hopnode feature is now in the latest version of AWX, so go try it out. There's an associated doc that you can find in our docs file to kind of get you started on how to set up a Hopnode, and just sort of walks through, some basic terminology and concepts around the Hopnode. That's pretty much it for that one. I think the next item is also me, and it's pretty related to the Hopnode feature. and I'll just kind of talk about that right now. One thing that Hal and I are focusing on in the upcoming weeks is finding a good methodology for allowing incoming receptor connections to the cluster. Right now, there's a bit of a limitation where control plane nodes must connect outbound to a hop node. And then once you have a hop node set up, other remote nodes can connect into that hop node, but it still requires having a separate part of your infrastructure that isn't managed by the operator to be there to allow sort of this inbound connection. So what would be nice is to have some mechanism to allow inbound connections into the Kubernetes cluster. So we're experimenting with that. I just wanted to pitch that there is a forum that we have going that we're collecting ideas and sort of brainstorming. So if this sounds like a topic you'd be interested in, especially if you have expertise in Kubernetes, this would be a great way to start contributing and kind of getting your voice heard. So let me just plug that real quick. I'll just put it in the chat here, Jake, if you want to. I guess we can probably add this to the slides or something like that, but this is kind of where we're accumulating discussion points on. So I'll keep it short and simple there. We have some prototypes up. It's our ideas that we pitched there are working. So we can demo that a little bit later on once we have it more fleshed out. But yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Jake, would you mind quickly flash that link up on your screen, just showing the cool new form that I hope everyone will sign up for? And we're working to bring more of these like working in progress, so how we are going about and developing the feature to the forum. And Jake, can you click into the link?
Do you want me to show the form? Sure.
Yes, sir. It's really cool. So yeah, long thread of discussions, and just like if anyone wants to participate.
There's other topics and stuff like that as well too. Awesome.
Yeah, sign up for the forum, introduce yourself, take a look around, post new topics.
Ask questions there instead of issues.
Yeah, good points.
Yes, good point. Thank you very much.
Moving on to community announcements with Community Day announcement for Berlin from Rick and Contributor Summit, not Community Summit, Contributor Summit in Durham.
Yeah, I can talk quickly about the Berlin one. Really, I don't have too much to say other than it's happening. It's in, I believe, 8 days on the 20th. And so it will be recorded, I've heard. So if you're not able to make it, you can wait for the recordings and see them. But if you happen to be somewhere near Berlin and you want to go take part in the community day, there is a thread on the forum that talks about all the talks and presentations that are going to happen. There's some really cool stuff, so check that out. But yeah, I just wanted to raise awareness of this event.
Hal, you want to talk about Contributor Summit?
Well, I'm happy to announce that on October 19th, during the DjangoCon US 2003, as part of the DjangoCon, we will be hosting the Ansible Community Summit in Durham. So if anyone that is going to DjangoCon or not going to DjangoCon, if you want to come to the Community Summit, the information is linked in the.
It is on the forum calendar as well.
Correct. It's also on the forum calendar. Let's direct all the traffic to forum calendar. The forum.
It is on the forum calendar, and it is after DjangoCon. So it's on the final. DjangoCon hosts sprints. Ansible is part of that. So while we have a community-focused first start of the day, we will have the Contributor Summit and sprint in the later half of the day as well. So if folks want to get involved in any Ansible projects, not just AWX, that'll be the place to do that. There will be core engineers there as well, and a bunch of sprints taking place.
If you are attending DjangoCon, you will be able to find a lot of us there. So I'm looking forward to meeting anyone.
We'll
yeah.
be there in a booth as well, I think, somewhere. There'll be a bunch of us there. So
Awesome.
awesome.
All right.
How here they got the next one as well. Good sir.
All right. Well, first thing first, Eli, you really need to put a picture on your GitHub profile. But I'm happy to announce that we are awarding Eli with our Spuds Award. Thank you for being a wonderful community contributor to the AWX project. We really appreciate all of the work that you have done. If I don't think I have to go into too much detail. If you all been attending the previous couple Ansible community meeting, you will see you have been seeing Eli's faces, although not his GitHub profile though. You've been seeing his presence. He's been working with us on improving the resiliency of AWX, and we really appreciate your contribution. And by the way, really detailed and wonderful issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I very appreciate you. I appreciate it, and I'm very glad to be a part of your community and to contribute in the AWX.
If you want to take a chance to introduce yourself a little bit, we have a minute, a little bit more time. If you want to,
Well, I'm a DevOps from CyberArk, and we are using AWX for like 2.5 years, and we are using it to deploy infrastructure for our clients. And we have a very huge load of different workflows that we use for deploying our product to different target accounts. And we also very appreciate AWX, so very appreciate your product, and we love AWX community especially. So thank you to all of you. Yeah, that's it.
all right. I think that's the end of our agenda for today.
That is.
Attending. I'm gonna stop the recording here.